Welcome to the golden age of radio. You're listening to the new old-time radio show. Classic, contemporary, fun. Ladies and gentlemen, the story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. Dragnet. You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to homicide detail. A call comes into the office. A woman says her husband is dead. She thinks he's been murdered. Your job? Investigate.
With the Nabisco pony. Reach for Nabisco. Partner! Reach for Nabisco. The bright red seal on the package end means there's mighty good cookies inside, my friend.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Wednesday, July 8th. It was sunny in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of homicide detail. My partner's Frank Smith. The boss is Captain Lorman. My name's Friday. It was 11:03 a.m. when we got to 906 South Norwood Street, the front door. Friday and Smith, homicide.
How are you? Carly, 1F14.
Yeah, doing
Hello,
good.
Carly.
Good to see
Hey
you.
there. Hi there.
Yeah.
Mrs. Pilson, the victim's wife, is back in the bedroom. She's pretty broken up about it.
What about the victim?
Name's George Pilson, age 57, no children. Just he and his wife live here. That's about all I got. She cried so much I thought it might be better to let her rest until you got here.
Where's the body?
In the other bedroom. I'll show you. Because she felt so bad, I thought maybe she'd like me to call her doctor. She said she didn't want any. And Mrs. Pilson is right across the hall.
Right. Oh, head wound.
Looks like somebody was serious.
Yeah. We'll need the lab and latent prints.
Want me to call him?
Yeah. Better call the coroner too.
Right.
Way he's lying, position of his hands outside the covers. Doesn't look like there was much of a struggle.
Yep. Being in bed, could have been asleep when he got it.
Well, let's talk to his wife.
Yeah.
Mrs. Pilson. Mrs. Pilson. Police officers.
Who is it?
Police officers. We'd like to talk to you. We're sorry to disturb you, ma'am, but we'd appreciate it if you'd tell us what you know about this.
All right. Want to go in the front room?
That'll be fine. Go ahead.
I couldn't talk to the other policemen.
We understand.
Calls are in, Sergeant. Anything else I can do?
Thanks, Carly. I'll handle it now.
Right. I'll shove off.
Mrs. Pilson, this is Frank Smith. My name's Friday.
This is like so many other mornings, except nobody sat in his chair like you are, Mr. Friday. I used to sit here and it was quiet. I didn't want to disturb George's sleep.
Then your husband usually slept during the morning hours?
Yes, he worked nights at the Belden Aircraft Company.
Would you tell us what happened, please?
What is there to tell? I came from shopping and found him just like he is now.
What time was that?
I don't know for sure. 10:30, somewhere around there.
When did you leave the house?
About the same time I usually do. I couldn't do my housework in the morning. Didn't want to disturb George.
Well, when would that be?
About 9 o'clock.
Was your husband asleep when you left?
Yes, he never closed the door, and I looked in before I left.
When you went out this morning, did you lock the house?
The back door was locked. I never lock the front when I'm just going to be gone a short while.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't take me more than 2 hours to shop at the most.
Do you know if your husband had any enemies, Mrs. Pilson?
Not that I know of. He might have, but he never said anything to me about them.
Uh-huh. I hope you won't take offense, but how did you and your husband get along?
I guess I should know that I'd be suspected too.
It's a question we have to ask.
I know, Mr. Friday. You men are strangers. How could you know what our marriage was like? And how do you sum up 30 years in one or two sentences? Good, bad, happy, unhappy. It was all of those.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't think our life was much different than most couples. Maybe one exception. See over there on the table?
Yes, ma'am.
My collection of elephants. I started collecting them as a little girl. I always thought that one day I'd have a little girl and I'd give them to her. We never had any children.
Uh-huh.
So my children have been pretend. I kept adding to the collection all these years. Each new elephant is one that my little girl or perhaps little boy would have added.
I see.
I was wrong about something I said.
How's that?
I said you were strangers.
Yeah.
You're not really. Otherwise, I wouldn't have told you about the elephants.
Thank you, Mrs. Pilson.
Then you and your husband haven't had any quarrels recently.
Usual words. Nothing serious, though.
Now there's something else we'll have to know.
Yes.
Do you know if any personal property is missing?
Stolen, you mean?
That's right.
I'd have to look first.
Would you do that for us?
Right now?
If you feel up to it. We'd appreciate it if you could.
You want to know about the bedroom, too?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
One other thing, Mrs. Pilson.
Yes?
Was your husband in the habit of carrying large sums of money on his person?
No. He usually carried some cash, but never large amounts.
I see. Would you like to start checking now, Mrs. Pilson?
Do you mind if we sit a moment longer?
It's all right. You take your time.
I was just remembering how like other days this is. I'd sit here reading or maybe just looking at my elephants and thinking.
Uh-huh.
Would be real quiet. And then the clock would strike 12. I'd go in and wake George.
Uh-huh.
Shall we go in?
If you're ready.
It's not quite time, but that won't make any difference now.
Ma'am?
He won't hear us.
When we checked the bedroom, Mrs. Pilson told us her husband's watch and diamond ring were missing. She said as far as she could determine, nothing else had been taken from the house. In the meantime, crews from the crime lab and Leighton Prince arrived. Frank called the office, and they ran the names George and Marie Pilson through R&I. They called back to say they could find no previous record for either one. Further questioning of the victim's wife failed to give us any definite lead as to who our suspect might be. We left the home and began to question some of the neighbors. 1:14 p.m., we rang the bell at the house directly across the street. We identified ourselves, and Sam Mordell, the occupant, admitted us. We went into the front room.
I was beginning to think I'd have to go look you fellas up.
Just what do you mean by that, sir?
I saw all the cars and activity over at the Pilsons. Couldn't figure out what it was. Thought it must be trouble of some kind. Curiosity just about got the best of me. Grab a chair. Might as well be comfortable while you're here.
Okay, Sam.
Thanks.
Don't mind all the wood shavings on the floor. You see, I'm a wood carver, but not my job. Just a hobby. I'm retired. Railroad man.
Yes, sir.
Had a rug in here, but I took it out. Always liked those eating places with the sawdust on the floor. You know the kind? Of course, shavings aren't sawdust, but then it's easier to save them this way, too.
Uh-huh. Well, Mr. Mordell, I wonder if you'd answer a few questions for us.
Sure thing. Anyhow, if I keep on gabbing, I won't find out what this is all about. You go ahead and ask your questions.
Thank you. Do you usually sit in that chair when you work?
Sure do. Seldom miss a day. I call this my cab window.
What's that,
A
sir?
cab window. Used to be an engineer. Sort of got used to looking out and enjoying the scenery as it went by. Of course, now the view doesn't change much, but I still like to see what's going on in the neighborhood.
Uh-huh.
Were you sitting here this morning?
Yeah. Don't miss many days. Haven't the time. I got to get this chain finished. Lot of work carving a wood chain.
Yes, sir. Would you remember seeing anyone around the Pilson residence this morning?
You mean besides Mrs. Pilson?
You saw her, did you?
Sure. When she went shopping. Always goes Wednesday morning, unless the weather is bad.
Uh-huh. Now, did you see anybody else?
Yeah, saw a fella come out of there while Mrs. Pilson was at the store.
You saw a man coming out of the house?
Yeah,
Would you know what time that was?
10 o'clock sharp.
You're sure of the time?
That's right. You see this watch?
Yeah.
They gave me this when I retired. You can see what it says on the back seat.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, real nice.
Railroad watch. Doesn't vary a bit. I don't get a newspaper, so I listen to the radio news when I'm working.
Uh-huh.
I always check the time when they come on. I know my watch is right. Sometimes they're a couple seconds late or early. Mostly, though, pretty much on schedule. Make good railroad men.
Uh-huh.
It was 10 o'clock sharp by my watch. Program was 3 seconds late.
All right, sir. Now, did you see the man go in?
No. I went out to make a pot of coffee.
How long were you out of the room?
20 minutes? Never takes me more than 20 minutes. You mind if I carve while we talk? Gotta get this chain finished. I'm gonna set a new record.
Uh-huh. Could you describe this man for us?
Sure, but I can give you a better clue than that.
What's that, Mr. Mordell?
He had a truck,
Go on.
printing on the side.
Yeah?
Man's name. Said he sharpened lawnmowers.
Do you know the name?
Not real sure. Either Ray or Gray.
Was there an address?
Yeah, but it was lettered too small. Anyhow, I wasn't too interested. I sharpened my own mower.
Well, can you tell us what kind of truck it was?
Not the make, but it was a closed-in kind. Green color. It didn't look too new.
I see. And you say the name on the side was either Ray or Gray, is that right?
Yeah. My eyes are good yet, but only the Ray part was real cleared. It looked like there could have been another letter in the front, though.
Uh-huh.
I just thought of something. It didn't have to be Gray. It could have been Bray or Trey.
Yes, sir. But we can check that out.
Now, can I ask you something?
What's that?
What's the trouble?
Mr. Pilson is dead.
Couldn't have been a natural death, or you fellows wouldn't be asking questions. It's too bad. George was a pretty good neighbor.
Uh-huh.
Be tough on his wife, too. Being married so long and all. I went to their 25th anniversary. It isn't easy to go on alone. I lost my wife 7 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Not when you've been happy. It's not easy.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mordell, you said you could give us a description of the man you saw coming out of Pilson's.
Oh, yeah. And if he had anything to do with George's death, he's going to get what I've wanted for so long.
What's that, sir?
Well, that's when you catch him, I mean.
Yeah.
He'll get his name in the paper.
How's that again?
Well, that's why I'm carving this chain. It's going to be the longest chain ever carved out of a single piece of wood.
I see.
Almost made it a couple other times. Then I got too anxious and botched the whole thing. But you see there, the shavings? When I finish, I'm going to sweep them all up and weigh them. You know, give the reporter something to write about.
Well, sir, I hope this one turns out for you.
Thanks. I'll make it this time. Maybe it won't be on the front page, but my name will be in the paper too.
Well, you can be sure of one thing.
Yeah?
You picked a better way to get there. Sam Mordell gave us a description of the man he'd seen. We called the office and got out a local broadcast. And then we went back to the Pilson house, found a lawnmower in the backyard. Mrs. Pilson said her husband had sent the mower out to be sharpened, but didn't know who the man was that did the work. We checked the classified directory and found the name Gray's Lawnmower Service. The listing had been underlined in pencil. Frank and I drove to the address, 2604 Royal Street. It was a small shop set well back from the street. The place was locked. A clock sign on the door read, "We'll be back at," and the hands pointed to 4:30. We parked across the street and waited. At 4:43 p.m., a man answering the description we'd been given unlocked the door and entered the shop. 4:45 p.m.
How are you? Either this is perfect timing or you've been waiting for me.
We're police officers.
Huh. Well, I guess that writes off the timing part.
Is your name Gray?
No, it's Para.
You work for a man named Gray?
This is my own business. I bought it from him.
Yeah.
He'd been here for some 20 years, so I just kept the name.
Do you pick up and deliver in your business?
Yeah,
Then you've got a truck.
that's right.
What kind?
Handle job. A Dodge.
What color?
Green. Look, I don't mind answering questions. I know you've got a job to do, but the way I see it, this question and answer game plays better if we both know what counts and what doesn't. Now, how about it?
For the time being, let's say you just called it.
Yeah?
We got a job to do.
That's it?
For now.
All right. I don't want to buck you guys. I got nothing to hide, but I get the same feeling when somebody won't cash a check for me.
Yeah.
It galls me to think I'm lined up as a bad risk.
We're not accusing you of anything. We'd appreciate your cooperation, but keep this in mind. We'll still get what we came here for. Now, you make the choice how you want it.
Okay. What are you after? Hot lawnmowers?
You said you make deliveries.
Yeah,
Do you keep a record of the calls you make?
sure.
Can we see the record?
If you want. The book's over at the desk, in the drawer. I'll get it.
I'll get it.
What you expect? I was gonna pull a gun out of the drawer?
This the one?
Yeah,
Here you are, Joe.
Thanks. These all the calls for today?
that's right.
Austin, Kemper, Jerome Pevden. When did you make these calls?
What time?
Yeah,
Well, Kemper this morning, Austin this afternoon.
they're the only ones you made today.
Yeah. Wait, let me see the book a second. It isn't here. I guess I forgot to enter it.
What's that?
Another call I made?
Where was that?
On Norwood Street, 906, I think it was.
Remember the name?
Yeah, Pilson.
Uh-huh. What time were you there?
Not sure, 9:30 or 9:30 or so, I guess.
Who did you talk to?
Nobody. I didn't see anybody around.
Did you go in the house?
Why?
Did you?
Yes, I rang the bell a couple of times, then I knocked.
Yeah.
I thought maybe they were in the back room of the house and couldn't hear me. The door was open a little, so I walked in.
Uh-huh.
Went into the front room. I called out but didn't get any answer, so I left.
You didn't leave the front room.
That's right.
You see anybody?
I told you I didn't. What more do you want?
You said you called out.
Yeah.
How loud?
What do you mean?
Loud enough to wake a person sleeping in a back bedroom?
I guess so, but no one answered or came out. I know that.
Uh-huh.
Was somebody there when I called?
Yeah.
Well, then ask them. Look, I don't know what you're getting at. I walked into a house, but I didn't do anything wrong in there. If there was someone in there, ask them.
It wouldn't do any good.
What?
He can't give us the answer. He's dead. We took Para back to the office and questioned him further. He continued to maintain his innocence. We ran his name through R&I and found a package for him showing one arrest for suspicion of ADW as a juvenile. We booked him on suspicion of 187 PC, murder, and Frank and I went back to his shop. We thoroughly searched both the building and his truck, but failed to turn up either the ring or watch. Thursday morning, Leighton Prince reported they'd found no fingerprints in the house other than those of the victim and his wife. We got a call from Ray Pinker in the crime lab. He said that George Pilson had been beaten about the head with some type of round instrument. He also substantiated our theory that there had been little struggle on the part of the victim. We called the county morgue, and Dr. Cephalou said he'd notify us as soon as he had posted the body. 11:26 a.m.
Joe?
Yeah.
Just checking over the time elements.
Uh-huh.
Mrs. Pilson left at 9, gone about an hour and a half. The neighbor saw Para leave the house at 10, right?
Yeah.
And if Mr. Mordell is right about how long he was gone from his front window, Para could have been there about 20 minutes.
Uh-huh. That's the way it checks out.
That'd give him enough time, don't you think?
We've still got to figure maybe he's telling the truth.
Yeah.
And if he is, that gives us several possibilities. When Pilson didn't answer, maybe it's because he couldn't.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Homicide, Friday. Yeah. Uh-huh. It wasn't? Uh-huh. I see. Uh-huh. Right, we'll be right over. Dr. Cephalou, just finished posting the body.
Uh-huh.
It's possible that Pilson wasn't killed by the head blows.
Yeah?
Might have been dead before he was hit.
You know, everyone knows the importance of taking a break every once in a while when you're working. Well, the same thing holds true if you're having fun. Now, that's why plays have intermissions. And during the intermission, you'll find the nearby fountain where they serve Coca-Cola is a mighty popular place. A sparkling glass of ice-cold Coke is a sparkling addition to the festivity and the excitement of opening night. Coke has a bright flavor, a distinctive flavor, all its own, that has never been equaled. It's bracing, too. Coca-Cola gives you a bit of quick energy that brings you back so refreshed, so quickly, and with as few calories as half an average juicy grapefruit. So, at intermission time, or any time, pause and refresh. Stop at the fountain where Coke is served. Then you can relax with the most asked-for soft drink in the whole world, bright and bracing Coca-Cola. Give yourself a break. Have a Coke.
We went over to the morgue. Dr. Cephalou said he'd found evidence of a barbiturate in the victim's body, in a quantity large enough to kill him. He also pointed out that the lack of profuse bleeding from the head wounds led him to believe the victim was dead before the beating occurred. Frank and I drove out to the Pilson residence. We talked to the victim's wife. We explained to her that it was necessary that we know more about her husband's physical condition prior to his death. We went into the front room and sat down. 12:43 p.m.
I'll try to answer your questions, but today I'm just beginning to realize what it's going to be like being alone.
Yes, ma'am, we understand. And we'll try to be as brief as possible.
Thank you.
Mrs. Pilson, had your husband been under a doctor's care recently?
No.
Had he been in good mental spirits?
Yes.
He didn't seem unusually worried or anything?
Not that I know of.
I see. Well, now would you tell us about yourself, Mrs. Pilson?
What do you mean?
Have you been under a doctor's care recently?
No. What has all this to do with my husband's death?
We'd like to know if there would be any reason for you or your husband to have a prescription for a strong barbiturate.
Oh, what?
A sedative.
You mean to make you sleepy?
That's right.
No, we didn't ever use them.
Then you haven't had any in the house.
I haven't. And I don't think George did.
Would it be possible that your husband could have used a barbiturate and you didn't know about it?
Yes, but if he did, I'm sure he'd have told me. Didn't have secrets from each other.
I see.
I'll get it.
Oh, Marie, you poor thing. I just got back and heard the terrible news, and I came right over.
Thank you, Lydia, but could you come back later?
Well, sure, dear. Is there anything I can do for you?
Maybe, but I can't talk now.
All right, Marie. Are the police here?
Yes, so won't you come back later?
Have you told them?
Yes.
You told them what George tried to do?
Yes.
Excuse me, ma'am, but I couldn't help overhearing your conversation.
Oh, you're the policeman?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, LAPD.
I'm Marie's neighbor.
Uh-huh. What did you mean about Mr. Pilson trying to do something?
She didn't mean anything. She was just talking.
We'll let her tell it.
Oh, maybe I shouldn't have said anything.
What did you mean?
Well, maybe it's not important.
Why don't you tell us anyway?
George tried to kill Marie.
We brought Lydia Shires into the house for further questioning. She explained that she was a close friend of Marie Pilson's. It was quite evident that Mrs. Pilson didn't want her friend to talk to us.
If I had any idea I was going to cause all this trouble, I'd never have come over. I only meant to help Marie.
Would you tell us why you said that Mr. Pilson was trying to kill his wife?
Sure, but Marie can tell you better than I can. Oh, now don't get upset, honey. It's going to work out all right. I'll tell you what I know, but Marie will have to fill in the details.
Go ahead.
Last week it was. She came over to my house, terribly worried. She was afraid she was going to have another nervous breakdown.
Please don't, Lydia. Please don't.
Now don't fret, dear. We all want to help you.
Mrs. Pilson, had you been under a doctor's care recently?
Of course, it wasn't the doctor's fault. He only did what he thought was right.
Uh-huh.
It was George that made her sick. Kept telling her she was going crazy, that she was going to die. Finally, she got to believe in the things he was saying.
Uh-huh.
That's when she had the breakdown.
How long ago was this?
How about 3 weeks ago?
Go ahead.
George took her to this doctor, got some medicine for her, something for her nerves, to make her rest.
Uh-huh.
That may be the office. I'll get it. Hello. That's right. No, he isn't. Who's calling? Uh-huh. Well, would you like to leave a message? I see. No, my name is Smith. Hello? Hung up. Some woman asking for Mr. Pilson.
Did she give her name?
Nope. Just said she was a friend of the family.
It was her. I know it. I wish I'd talked to her.
Who was it, Mrs. Pilson?
I don't know her name, but she lied. She's no friend of mine. She caused all of this.
What do you mean?
That's why George was trying to kill me. With me out of the way, he could have her. She'd come and live in my house.
Marie, you never told me about her.
I still had some pride.
This medicine your husband got from the doctor, was it a barbiturate?
Yes, that's how he was going to kill me.
Go on.
He'd come in and sit on my bed in the early morning. When he came in from work, he'd wake me up and tell me I was going to lose my mind.
Uh-huh.
Time after time he did it. I began to think he was right. I couldn't remember doing things.
That's when you went to the doctor.
He took me. The doctor gave me a prescription. I wasn't supposed to take only so many of the capsules. George saw to it that I took more.
How's that, ma'am?
He put them in my food or in my drinks.
You're sure he did that?
Yes. I counted the capsules in the bottle every time I took one. I got so I couldn't remember if I'd taken any or not, so I'd count them.
Uh-huh.
I wrote the number down on paper so I would be sure. Some were always missing. I knew he'd been giving them to me.
Go on.
That's when I told Lydia about it. She took me to her doctor. When he examined the capsules, he told me they were strong enough to kill me if I took too many.
Is that right, Mrs. Shires?
Yeah, my doctor told her not to take them anymore.
You stopped taking the sedative.
Yes, I told George about what the other doctor had said. He got mad. He said I shouldn't have gone to him, and then he started telling me I'd go crazy if I didn't take them. He kept after me.
Is that why you killed him, Mrs. Pilson?
You can't mean Marie did it.
Please, Mrs. Shires.
He kept after me. I knew he was trying to get rid of me. He'd stay out all night when he wasn't working.
Did he tell you about another woman?
No, he didn't have to. I knew. A couple of times she called here. I answered the phone. When she heard my voice, she'd hang up.
Uh-huh. So you gave him the barbiturate you'd been taking. Is that right?
To make him sleep. He always had a sandwich when he came home from work. I fixed it before I went to bed.
When did you hit him?
Oh, when I came home from the market, I suppose. You'll want the weapon, won't you?
Yeah, and the watch and ring, too.
All right.
Marie, how could you do it?
It had to be. He was going to kill me. She was going to live in my home with my children. Lydia,
Yeah.
I want you to take my family,
What?
my elephants. I want you to have them.
All right, Marie.
Want to tell us where the weapon is, Mrs. Pilson?
All right. I didn't believe George, but he was telling the truth.
Uh-huh.
Told me it would happen.
Yeah.
He said I was crazy. He said I'd kill somebody.
The story you have just heard is true. The names were changed to protect the innocent. On November 3rd, trial was held in Department 97 Superior Court of the State of California, in and for the County of Los Angeles. In a moment, the results of that trial.
Do it yourself. Pick out the newest new car in America, the new Motoramic Chevrolet. Each bright new model features show car styling all its own, with a whole new design in bodies by Fisher. Hat room, hip room, and shoulder room are all increased. Here's a revolutionary new ride and new power with the new Chevrolet Turbo Fire V8 engine and two new Blue Flame 6s. Here's new four-fender visibility with Chevrolet's big new sweep side windshield. Underneath, there's a completely new chassis featuring wonderful new glide ride front suspension and new anti-dive braking control. To experience a whole new concept of low-cost motoring, drive the new Motoramic Chevrolet.
Marie Ellen Pilson was examined by 3 psychiatrists appointed by the state and found to be insane. She was confined to Mendocino State Hospital for the criminally insane for treatment. You have just heard Dragnet, the authentic stories of your police force in action, starring Rick Kay, a presentation of the United States Armed Forces Radio Service.
This episode of Dragnet starred Rick Kay as Sergeant Joe Friday and Ted Larson as Officer Frank Smith. Guest stars include Linda Schneider as Marie Pilson, Joe French as Sam Mordell, Matthew J. Wilkes as Charles Pera, Marcia Wilsey as Lydia Shires, and Mark Seven as Policeman Carly. Thank you for listening to our podcast brought to you by Curtains Mystery Theater, a division of Get Away with Murder Incorporated. To help ensure future programming, click on the donate button at curtainsmysterytheater.com. That's theater with an R-E. You can also show financial support on our anchor page. That's anchor.fm/The New Old Time Radio Show. Or you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, like us on Facebook, and tell a few of your friends about The New Old Time Radio Show. Classic. Contemporary. Fun.